Hey, I gave us some thoughts since last time, and let's take a look at how to take one track, one pattern, one whatever, interesting idea, and expand upon it using the patterns and the scenes. So going from one seed to an entire song. That's the eventual goal once song mode comes in at least. To access the pattern and scenes, we use the pattern and scene keypad up here. Scenes, you have 8 per song, and they're affected at a global scale. A scene basically contains the information that says, I'm going to go to my track select mode to show this. A scene says, hey, for each of my 16 tracks, what pattern is playing? What do you have muted in it? Did you mute this track? Did you mute the pads in this track if you're using a drum track? And what's the velocity? So here's my current scene. Whenever I go to a new empty scene, it just captures what's currently playing. But now that I'm in a new scene, I can make some changes, like I can mute the drum tracks. So now we just have our chords. But if I go back to scene A, we'll get that again. And that's all done without changing the pattern. I can also change the patterns to add more variation. So now if I go back to my chords, I am still in my scene pattern mode, and I can press pattern 2 to enter a new pattern. I'm just going to do something really simple so we can hear the difference. And now if I go to scene B, it's still tied to pattern 1. And scene A will be tied to pattern 2 now. If I go back to pattern 1, so the scenes are always watching, and they're always dynamically trying to capture whatever it is you're playing as a state that you'll want to return to later. Within the scenes, you can press and hold a scene to get mute profiles. This is a way to expand upon just the 8 categories you have available from scenes. So that way, if you're building up, you can start dropping out tracks by having 4 mute profiles. They work the same way as a scene. Select a mute profile, and it captures all the mute information. If I say go and mute my chords, you'll hear that. I can go back to a mute profile that had them unmuted, and they'll unmute. So that's a way for you to organize and play with your ideas. Yeah, so all kinds of things always have patterns associated with them, like we saw in the Hue menu. I encourage you to take a look and use the settings to, use the help settings to tap it and get information of how it's working. But yeah, scenes and patterns are the way to start building things up. The last thing of note is this plus button up here. This is a way for you to either insert a fresh scene and capture, a whole blank thing, so now nothing will play. But I can go back to these and still capture it. Or you can press and hold to clone a scene. So this will create a variation of the patterns, or not a variation, this will copy and duplicate the pattern. So as I mess with this scene, I can still go back and have exactly what was originally playing, because normally the patterns are referenced. So if I'm changing something in a scene, but I'm changing the pattern, and then I go to another scene, it's still looking at that same pattern. So it could change what's actually played. But using the clone features is a way to avoid that. In the future, we'll be able to use all kinds of tools to connect scenes to create whole songs and eventually albums. But until then, I hope this gives you a clear idea of how these things work and how you can start using them to organize your ideas into grand spectacles. Until next time, have fun making.